Hi there, welcome back. I'm Gwen from Living Your Best Life Coaching. I'm a soul purpose activator and empowerment coach for purpose and passion driven women with a mission. And one of those is with me today, Katie McGrail, who you might remember we've interviewed previously a few months ago, just before she moved to Spain, and we're now doing a follow up. And so thanks for coming back to chat to us again, Katie. We've called this title Katie's Adventure of a Lifetime. The last time it was From Chaos to Clarity, because you were getting clarity just before your big move to Spain from Ireland. So we'll recap that a little bit for the benefit of our audience who haven't watched the first episode, or it's been a while, so they may not recall. And one thing, there's a key reason why we wanted to have this interview was really the passage, not just the passage of time since you moved there, but the passage of time recently that's been really, there's been a collective consciousness and a really big, and give me a yes for that, a really big, not a surge, but like a sense of knowing that we have to take space for ourselves, that this transition from 2025 into 26 needs to be given a bit of space, needs to be given a bit of time. We need to honour ourselves a bit more. Not everyone is feeling that or able to do that, or they've felt it in some way and feeling the disconnection of that. You and I have chatted about before this about feeling that collective consciousness and that energy of this shedding of the snake here, the Chinese horoscope here is still going on, and we need to recognise where this is illuminating patterns within us. So we've just had the Leo moon at the time of recording. We've just had the snow moon, the Leo full moon, just at the weekend there. And what's been prevalent and as came up for a lot of people is that it's providing a cycle of completion from the last Leo full moon, which was in August. Now, interestingly, you and I did my Flip the Script immersive experience way back, must have been at the end of 2024 into 2025, interestingly, just before that, Chaos to Clarity. And I've done a few of those since, and if anybody's interested in that, I'll share more details about that afterwards. The one that I did in August was the Lionsgate portal, and that was we started on the 8th of August because of the not just the numeric significance, because of the significance of the timing, etc. And it's those things that are coming to a conclusion now. It's those things that are coming full circle for completion, or at least to be illuminated, so that we can decide what we want to complete and what we want to take forward, and what we're completely shedding as we move out of 2025 and that energy of the snake. And then we move into the year of the fire horse. And as we said just before we came on live here, that year of the fire horse is still 2 weeks away, because this is the 3rd of February as we're chatting now. And it's the 17th of February that we actually move into that Chinese New Year. And that's what, as I say, a lot of people that are on the same wavelength as us, the same energetic frequency as us, are feeling that need to connect more with their own joy, connect more, not just with their purpose, but to connect with what feels good to us and allow ourselves time to process that, and so that we fully shed all of those layers, or as many as we can, because we'll always have more to shed at some point, and so that we can activate something within, and so that we can go into the new dynamic year with momentum, with more knowing. And just before I came on to the recording with you, there was an interesting synchronicity. So we often chat to each other on Messenger, on voice notes, when synchronicities come up for both of us, and we're in what I call synthesis. And we have those moments, and you're like, oh, you won't believe what's happened. And you go, well, actually, I do, because something very similar has happened for me. And just as I went to send you the details to come on to the recording, Facebook showed me this card, which was on my windowsill here behind the PC, and I'll try and hold it up so that everybody can see it. Yeah. And it's from Kyle Gray's.
Wow!
It's the Merkaba activation.
I'm just looking at the picture. It's stunning.
It's stunning, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
light shining from...
Yeah, let's hold it up again so that everyone can see it and just appreciate that for a minute, because there's so much energy coming from that. And both of us are energy workers, are energy masters, and that's a huge part of our work. So anyone who follows us and is watching this will also be tuning into that. And it's from Kyle Gray's Gateway of Light Activation deck. And the Merkaba is it's like sacred geometry. It's a powerful symbol, geometric symbol. And I actually heard about it recently in relation to Archangel Michael and a whole story about that. So that might be something that I'll point people to afterwards, the podcast by Suzanne Giesman about that, because it illuminated a lot for me. And so it's on the theme of what we're talking about, this, what's being illuminated under this full moon. And what the card says is transcendence, ascension, you are rising up. So that's a perfect way for Spirit to help us introduce ourselves and introduce the theme of this talk. And notice how we are rising up. Everyone who's watching this, whether it's now or in the future, is rising up, is going through some sort of ascension at the same time. So thank you to our collective unseen teams and our individual unseen teams.
And to rise, you can't, a little bit like the hot air balloon, you can't go up with all of the baggage you have.
You've got to get out the ballast,
you have to let stuff go in order to rise. That's very interesting, especially because this full moon was particularly powerful, I found, for me. The moon doesn't always affect me, but this weekend did not sleep well. I slept badly both nights, and then I was just telling you yesterday I realized I don't want to date anymore. We're not doing that. We're not getting benefits from it right now, so we're gonna move on and not do that. And I have had a toothache I'm going to say it's been about a week, but every time I've been like, is this you? It was Spirit been like, we need to tell you something, but no, we're not telling you something yet. And I woke up this morning thinking, I think that what they wanted to tell me was I needed to stop dating. And actually,
and so they're literally giving you a pain so that you would like to the point where you're like, right, I need to pay attention to this.
Oh, that's interesting. I never thought of it in that way, because the dating ended up giving me a pain. But so then did the physical thing. But then this morning I was asking Spirit if I should make a dentist appointment, and they said yes.
Okay,
so I hadn't made a dentist appointment. But and as soon as I made the appointment, the pain is a lot less. So I don't know what's going on, but that's
sometimes you just have to take that action in order to set the momentum going, and then it might be you go to the dentist and they go, "There's nothing wrong." However, you've been able to settle that and just get that in a different way.
Maybe that is it, because it's actually a tooth I've had a root canal in before, and I was like, I shouldn't be able to feel anything in there, but I have felt things before, and the dentist before has said, I don't know what to tell you. There's nothing going on. I can't see anything.
Yeah, so a lot of it probably is energetic, and it's been able to recognise that and get the sort of confirmation, physical and non-physical. Really,
yes, yeah. Oh, interesting, because it was when we were talking before, it was a cycle that I've broke. Like at the weekend, I realised that I had already known I was anxiously attached, and somebody didn't show up, and my friend had to tell me, you need to move on, you need to, like, don't do that, don't go back to that, no way. And I did, I literally unmatched with this person because of my friend. I didn't do it because I wanted to, I did it because she told me to. And I was like, oh no, like, because I'm so in tune with myself. I know what I want. I know how I feel and all of this, but I needed an external and I felt like bad or guilty or something that I couldn't just do it for myself. But when we were talking before, you were like, but we all need the extra support. And I didn't feel better after I did it. I actually felt worse. And yesterday wasn't feeling great. But then by the end of yesterday, I was like, these men are not bringing me any, like, my life is so good right now, and I am in so much gratitude so often, and then I get into a situation with a man and it lets me down, and I'm like, it's not bringing me anything, so why the hell are we here? If I had met that person, or if I had, like, not unmatched with him and been like, okay, well, you ghosted me there, but sure, why don't we meet again some other time, I would have just continue the same cycle. Yeah. Whereas now I'm like, but also I can see the benefit of my friend being really honest and being like, get rid, no way.
Yeah.
And to be honest, her being really honest and saying get rid, she was like, you're a queen. What she actually said to me was that a strong egg doesn't chase sperm. And I was like, yes, I'm going to fucking sit here and like not make any effort or not like be a nice person, but I'm not going to chase these people that are giving me nothing.
We want to magnetize and attract. We don't want to chase after. And what I was thinking there, what was coming up as you were talking is sometimes we need those stop signs. So you've got a stop sign from your friend there and also a stop sign from spirit, from your unseen team of going, right, you're causing yourself a pain here. And sometimes we need that. Sometimes that comes through technology. Sometimes it comes through all different things. And usually, as you say, when we're trying to, we want to pursue a course of action, whether that's with work or whether it's with love or whatever it might be, and we think, I want to be doing this right now, and we think we're in control, and we think, right, okay, this is what I want to do, and if it's not right time and not right place, or there's some reason why you're not, you will be divinely detoured. And whether it's just the quicker we can recognize it, the less frustration there will be. But if we don't recognize it, then they have to make it a bit harder. So again, I talk about often like the feather, the brick, or the truck. So if you get the feather and you sort of go, all right, guys, thanks, I realize I just need to walk away now or do something else. If you don't get that, then you get the brick, and that's like, for you, it's like the toothache at the minute. So hopefully we go and do that, sort it out. And so you don't need to get the truck, you don't need to get floored, something else. So
well, I do think because so I made a lot of changes myself in 2025. So I chose to let go of an awful lot, and I thought, okay, that's cool. Year of the snake, I've made a huge change.
All that. Been there, done that.
I thought I was good to go. November comes along and I'm hit by all of these old emotions that I have not experienced. So I went to I used to go to a meditation satsang on a Friday, and for 2 weeks straight, I went in, I sat down and I sobbed. Like I just cried, and it was so much inner stuff, like old stuff. So one of the men afterwards asked if I was okay and if things, and I just ended up saying it's just old energy that needs to move, because that's what it was. But because it felt so silly to be like, well, when I was 5 years old, this thing happened and I didn't feel the feeling. And although I know he would have understood at the same time, but it was like, this is all of this. And then the week after that, I had a relationship breakdown with a friend. And I went on a call with you right afterwards, but that wasn't the first relation with that person. We had been dated. We dated for 2 months, and then he said he just wanted to be friends. So we were friends, but we saw each other so much. So it was a very intense friendship. And then something felt a bit off with him, or he was just being a bit weird. And I called him out, and he got angry and he blocked me. And I was shocked. I was like, what the hell's going on?
So there was that stop sign again.
Yeah. I'm anxiously attached though. So I was like, okay, well, to be honest, I needed closure. But what was really happening was the anxious attachment and this intense friendship that like suddenly disappeared. And so he had blocked me, and I sent him a letter. And I said, if you want to talk, like, I don't know what the hell happened there, but like, I think what was going on is we were both being children and we just are run. So I sent him a letter. We met up again, and he was up for continuing the friendship, but I had boundaries, because after having met him again, I was suddenly like, oh, I don't trust you. I didn't realize this while I was speaking to him, but very soon afterwards, when I set my first boundary with him and he reacted badly, I was like, oh, I need this boundary because I don't trust you. You've blocked me and cut me out of your life before, and you're going to go and do it again. I don't trust that you won't do it again. So I ended up having to set 2 boundaries, and I set the second one right before a call with you. And he had said, no, it sounds like too many rules for a friendship. I'm out. And I was really sad. I was really sad, but it was the anxious attachment was the reason I went back to it. If I hadn't been anxiously attached, because this same friend that called me out for my dating thing at the weekend, it was the same friend who has hated this ex-friend since he told me that he just wanted to be friends and was a bit weird. Now that I think about it, it was. But again, I was anxiously attached. So I was like, oh, well, I'm going to keep giving this man rope because I like him as a person, and he is nice, and it very much replicates what I did with my parents, the
Yes.
begging for love and attention and give me, like, please come and talk to me. So I repeated that with him. I cried. I was really sad. I think it was about 2 weeks probably that I was really sad because it very much felt like a breakup. It was such heartache, and then it felt worse, I think, because I'm in a foreign country and I have not as many people that I know, and he had helped me with an awful lot of things. He was very, I need to help you. So he did help me to like sort out things, or like if I didn't know where to buy something, I would ask him. And
so
then
yeah, you formed an attachment that way as well. Yeah.
The need for it, that I needed him. And then I got into a thing just for about a week with a man that I never actually met because he ghosted me. But I had formed this attachment because he got under my skin, is how I describe it. And as a result, then when he just ghosted me and then hours later texts me and goes, oh, I lost my phone, I needed this friend who hated my ex-friend. I needed her to say, absolutely not. Like, you're not starting a relationship with somebody where they can ghost you and then they come back and you say, okay, that must mean the next time he'll do the same thing. Maybe he's lying. Maybe he's telling the truth and he did lose his phone. It doesn't matter. You're a queen and you are not going to chase this person. And I was saying to you before the call that I felt like kind of embarrassed that I went and unmatched with this man because my friend told me to. I didn't do it because I wanted to. I didn't want to. I would have given him another chance. But she was like, absolutely not. And I just didn't have I didn't want to go back to her and be like, yeah, I know you told me to do that, but I'm actually going to meet him. So I unmatched with him because of that.
Is reflecting back to you how because she's reflecting back to you how she sees you, how she values you, how you are worthy of more, being that queen. And so it's like, sometimes we just need life to mirror that back to us rather than the other behavior.
So it feels very much like I've broken or changed a cycle there, because I was anxiously attached, kept going back to this man who literally blocked me. And
you talked about
actually, I'm like not interested. If you want to see me, you should have seen me when you said you would, and you don't. So bye-bye.
Yeah, exactly. So that goes back to, as you referred to there, your cycle with your parents, and you wrote a book about that. And am I right in saying that I was never the problem, or yes, you were never the problem?
You were never the problem. Yeah. Stories to confirm it is not your fault, because I was always led to believe that it was my fault. It didn't matter what it was, but it was my fault.
Yeah. So you've owned that in a certain way and made that a theme, a premise, a strong value in your life. And yet we all have these things that on our hero's journey through life, that we have these challenges. And like you say, you go, well, I thought I've dealt with this. And then it's like, nope, it's like whack-a-mole, it pops its head up again. You're like, oh, we're hearing a different guys now. We've still got to deal with it. This thread is still there.
And for me, definitely romantic relationships is a huge part of that. I can see even in like past relationships that I was going back, or I was with that person because it was like my parents. They say that an anxious attachment will attract an avoidant attachment, and definitely one of my exes was absolutely avoidant, and the ex-friend also avoidant, because if he wasn't avoidant, he would have been like, oh, what's going on for me? Why? But neither, in both of those situations, I needed them to be better people, but I needed them to look at their own stuff and to like own it. And to be honest, all I wanted from not the ex, but the ex-friend, all I needed for him to say was, oh God, I didn't realize, sorry. That was it. Like, I didn't need anything else, but he couldn't do that. And because I then analyze people, but I can also see a lot of old me in that, that I had this belief that I was a terrible person, like a really horrible, awful person. There was something awful about me. And it was like So I might have said it in the last time we recorded, but I had this belief that there was I knew that there was something evil or bad about my life, but I didn't know what it was. And it was there for so long that eventually I was like, oh, it's me. It must be me. It's like, it's inside me. And when you have this belief that you're an evil or bad person, when people get too close, you push them away by whatever means you have. And because if people you're afraid that if people get too close to you, they'll see that you're really evil and bad. And therefore you get rid of them before they can see that. So he needed to help and to support, because he couldn't just accept that I would want to be friends with him without him giving me something, and that what he gave me was this support and help. And I was like that. I used to always try to help. And I was telling people recently that when in Ireland, when you're like out for dinner with a friend, they'll say, oh, I'm going to pay. And the tradition is to say, oh, no, I will. Oh, no, I will. And you argue about it. I had to force myself and have had to force myself to not do that and to just let people pay, because if somebody's offering to pay, it's because they want to pay or they have the means or they don't mind.
Yeah,
exactly.
You something. And you've got to receive.
I don't need to, like in my relationships, I don't need to do anything. I don't need to be anything. Me being there is enough. I don't need to get the people that I'm in relationship with want me for me. Whereas I was raised with this belief of, oh, I have to be helpful. So you never go into somebody's house without bringing them something. If they're doing something, you always offer to help. And I've had to really consciously say to myself, it is okay to just sit here. I remember going to my friend's wedding, and it was in Austria, and I speak no German, and she is Austrian and her partner is German. And it was the night before the wedding. Everybody was setting up, and everybody was speaking German around me, and I just sat there. And I remember Astrid came over to me, and I said, I could ask you to explain, like to translate, but I feel like it would just be more work for you if you had to then translate it for me. And she was like, I didn't invite you here to help me set up. I invited you here because I want you to be here. And I was like, yes, I know. And I get that, but it feels incredibly uncomfortable. So I'm going to sit here in the discomfort and you can go about and set up your wedding.
Yeah. And I get that, because there's a few things to unpick there. And one of the key themes that's prevalent for us and for our audience is that need to give in order to receive, that needs to be the people pleaser, the giver, and that actually when somebody tries to give to you, then you feel uncomfortable. And the other thing from that as well, just going back a little bit on what you said there, is when you went into the meditation circle, I think it was, often what we don't realize as well is that because we are highly energetic beings, and in particular because we're so sensitive, and that sensitivity is what helps us to connect to people. But what we don't always consciously realize is that energetically we're way beyond empathetic. And I'm getting a yes for that. We're like empathetic to the nth degree, and our energy is subconsciously, kind of like putting our arms around everyone in the room and actually taking on board their energy and their emotions too. We believe it to all be ours. So some of it would have been yours in that circumstance of but then actually, so that in itself is a wake up call, and it's so helpful when we can actually, if we go into those situations and we feel like, why am I, yes, I was emotional, or yes, it was something triggered, but why am I triggered out of all proportion to and my hands are going out of all proportion to the event or to how I was beforehand. It's either something really deeply in you that's not been healed, or it's something that's like deeply in everyone, and you're trying to heal it unconsciously for them all and take on board.
Well, I think I do understand that. And actually, while the ex-friendship relationship was ending, well, I didn't know it was ending, but I had experienced a lot of jealousy. And Sam later said to me, oh, that's not your jealousy. And I was like, what do you mean? I feel it. Of course it's my jealousy. And she was like, no, it's not.
There's something.
And it was somebody else's jealousy towards me, but I felt the jealousy towards them. It was very complicated. But I do think
about that as well. Sorry, then why do we pause there? You're good at being able to ask spirit, whether that's out loud or in writing, or
so I did
to ask a friend or whatever.
once Sam said it, I was like, no, that's not true. And then, is it?
Yeah, exactly. And then when you get that answer, like, so then the next circumstance like that, because we're all going to have these other circumstances where we go, oh, you know, we go into things with good intentions of like, oh, I'm going to, you know, hold everybody, because you hold moon circles and things like this. So you'll be doing a lot of that as well in your work. But when you realise, like, okay, is this mine? Yes or no? Then you can go, all right, well, I'll just let go of the stuff that's not mine. I'll deal with the stuff that is mine, but it's not my, like you said in relationships exactly as well, it's not my job to do that for them. And that's disempowering for the other person to try and do their inner work for them. Thing.
Yeah,
and
and I would
keep coming back to asking ourselves those questions: is this mine or is it not? And then that in itself is a relief, and you can let go of that baggage. Like we went back to the beginning of the hot air balloon.
I do think that is what, like, with regards to the jealousy, that was definitely what happened. But with regards the going into the meditation center, this is they just they're so welcoming, and they also are all on the path. That's what they call it, El Camino.
I'm not suggesting they're not welcoming or they're not doing their own stuff.
No. But so what happened for me when I went? What happened for me when I went into the center, I had all of these things that were coming up, and I was in a space and in a circle that I was able to let it go. I was being held, and I knew that I was being held, and that it was a space. Because actually, so for I think it was all 4 weeks of November, I cried every time, but for the first 2 weeks, it was old stuff. But I went in, I sat down, and I started crying. And I had also been going to a mantra session in that same place. And so the two of the teachers that were sitting in front of me basically are people that I know, and like I know more of them now. But and while I was crying the first time, they put tissues in my hands, and then the second time I opened my eyes and they had put tissues down in front of me. And I remember when they did that, right before they were put into my hands, because I was sitting with my eyes closed, I had the feeling of being really alone, and I felt really alone. And that was what I was experiencing and crying about. And then I was given, like, I knew that I was in a space that I was held in anyway. I knew that energetically, but without consciously thinking about it. And then when they were giving me the tissues, I was like, oh my God, this is making me cry more, because I know that I'm not alone, and I have all of these people here. And even just that the two people in front of me saw me and wanted to support me, because when I sat down, I had kind of like nodded to one of them, but the other person wasn't there. And so I feel like it was both of them saw me and were like, she's going through something, here are some tissues. And it was like between them, and they both held me without them having to do very much. But even like just giving me the tissues, it made me feel like I was not alone, and I was supported. And even afterwards, Javier asked me how I was, or if I was okay. And I didn't feel comfortable telling him, but I knew that I was in a space that I could have been. So yes, with regards the taking other people's emotions and things, but in that instance, it was my stuff. Maybe it was other people's stuff as well, but it was, and I knew that it was mine. It was like, I didn't need to ask. These are feelings that I knew that I had and that I just wasn't allowed to hold or process when I was growing up, and weren't like, they just weren't welcome. And I was in a space where I was able to, and safe enough to release them. Yes.
One thing I want to ask about that, because you have got a great self-awareness about this and a good spiritual practice, I want to say, do you recognize sometimes when those things that come up that are yours, they're still not completely yours, because they might be ancestral or generational?
Oh yeah, I can see when it is like, oh, that my mother did that. Yeah, well, yeah, I can definitely see when if my parents passed it on to me, and I can feel parts of that, but that doesn't mean that it's not mine. It's still like, because I'm thinking one of the things that came up when I moved here was the shame and guilt around sex. And it really surprised me that it came up, because when I was in Ireland, I was journaling around it, and I realized that it wasn't mine. My parents put it on me, and without me doing very much, it just was gone. And then I got here, and more of that shame and guilt did come up, and I was like, oh, happy days, another layer of this, great. But that's as much as my parents put it on me, their parents put it on them, the Catholic Church put it on the entire country of Ireland. It's still mine. I still needed to process, and it still had like a thing to do with me, but it didn't mean that we didn't pull it out of the air. This is passed down through generations.
And the wonderful thing about that is, and it maybe not sound wonderful, but the wonderful thing about that is you, and changing it for you, are actually changing it for your predecessors and for your descendants. So you're changing it past, present, and future. So
I have a question for you about that. And I think
it's a really special thing to be able to do, though. So just to give you the chance to receive that as well before we ask the question, just to acknowledge it. Yeah.
So I think that my question is around that. I feel like I want I think I might have already asked you this, but in order to fully be able to receive
for the audience as well, because as you were talking about it and expressing it, as I say, I got that big hit and I'm getting it again. So you're right. There's other people that need to hear this as well. So thank you.
So the question is around my descendants, because I think I'd said to you, I remember being in Madrid sending you a voice note, and it was around, if I don't have children, who am I doing this for? And I have a friend, I sent pretty much the same thing to a friend who has kids. And she said, because I was very much, and to be honest, I think I just don't care anymore. But at the time I was wondering. But she said, can you imagine your life? Think about your life in the future. And if you don't have children in that future, do you feel disappointed? And my immediate response was no. But she said, is it not enough that you're doing it for yourself? So my question to you is, if I don't have children, I've changed this for me, but my descendant, I don't know if I'll have descendants or not.
You also have, from my perspective, I'm not a mother either, but I've also very much recognised through my work, and again, I'm getting a yes for this, and we people like this as well, that we can be a matriarch, we can be a mother figure, and we have a bloodline, whether or not we have, and I know you have distanced yourself from your family. You also have nieces and nephews that you do still care for, and you have friends, family who you care for very much. So that's, your soul family and are your descendants as much as anything else as well. Your chosen family, if you like, rather than just the bloodline. So I want to say we're doing this for all mankind. That sounds a bit huge, but you know what I mean. We are like our joy, our loving ourselves and improving ourselves and growing exponentially benefits everyone around us, benefits your neighborhood, your online community, your bloodlines, and even if you don't ever know about it, you're still influencing them. And as I say, and there will be, whether or not you become a mother, like I'm a great auntie, for example, and I know through my nephew and his son, and again, I don't need to be in their lives constantly, but me doing what I'm doing is having a beneficial effect on them. And they've got to do their own growing up, their own racing and all of that, and their own work. However, we are preventing them from having to go through some of the things that we've gone through, and continues like that. So you're not taking it away from them, but you're also easing that situation for them, whether or not you've physically given birth to them, because you're doing it all the time in your work and in your friendships and relationships and all these sort of things. So so does that answer the question? Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you. Yeah. And now I will accept I'm doing this great thing.
Yes. So there you go.
Yeah.
And I get that as well, because that's been a big part for me. And again, much as we do this work and who we are and what we do, we still have, there's always an element of that that's for ourselves as well. And what's happened for me through January just personally is, and I've been helping some other people on that basis as well, but what's been really prevalent is actually being able to take time and space for ourselves. That's a huge gift, and that in itself is a way of being receptive, as being self-loving, and actually that getting a yes for that, and being able to deepen that connection to to spirit, to your unseen team, to the universe, however people want to call it. It's interchangeable, to divine love, let's say. Making that space for ourselves and doing the things that are good for us, and recognizing the things that aren't so good for us. That's in itself, that's opening us up to that the giving and the receiving, and you might, some people might want to call it like the divine masculine and feminine and these kind of archetypes, and that's the thing that's really, when we can't do that, or when we've been conditioned all our life, oh, I've got to give, in order, I've got to give something to receive. I can't just receive, or I can't just I've got to be productive. I've got to be doing this. And like you say, you've found it challenging as well. Actually, when we can sit in that and go, it's okay just to be.
I was telling you before this call last week. So I think the moon just hit it out of the park with this one. I'm glad.
And it's those completion cycles as well. It's not just this moon. It's that, like that. One of these.
The end. But the last week I had this feeling or this thought that it shouldn't be so easy. It can't be so easy, because I am currently making a lot of making a lot of money. And I felt like bad saying that, which is in its own thing, I guess. But I'm making
you're making a lot of money. You're being rewarded.
And I feel like I'm not working a huge amount, which is, anyway, it felt like I wasn't working a huge amount. I took Thursday off, essentially, because I don't start teaching until 6:30 in the evening on Thursdays. And I sat around and watched Bridgerton, loving life. But I was not. I had this thought of, oh, I should be working harder. Why I should have more work to do. You should, you're making money, therefore you should be working. So I was talking to Sam Slater, and she said, oh, it sounds like, she mentioned inner child work. And I immediately went to left-handed writing, or non-dominant hand writing, which is where you write with your dominant hand a question, and then write with your non-dominant hand, and you write like a child, and it's the answer, and it's your inner child. So my inner child was like, oh, but we need to work hard in order to make money. So you should be working harder. And I said, well, who said that? Your parents. And I was like, oh, okay, that's not cool, but right, okay. And then my inner child was like, yeah, but that doesn't actually sound like a lot of fun. You need to have more fun. So what about we get rid of that, and we say, so I've actually got it written down. So the inner belief that I have now changed is, the less I work and the more time I spend enjoying myself, the more money I make. And inner child then goes, you need to book that holiday that you have been thinking about. And I went and booked flights to Seville, and I'm going to Cadiz at the end of March. I wanted to go a bit later, but anyway, the end of March, I'm going to fly into Seville and going to Cadiz. And I was like, oh, great, happy days, loving this. The next day,
you make more money when you're there doing nothing, but you're having fun.
That's what my belief has told me. So yeah. And then the next day, I had created or started to have these worries about money. And I was like, but this doesn't make any sense. And logistically, it doesn't make any sense. I've added up what I have, and I'm like, we don't need to have this fear. What's going on? And my inner child was like, I know that we don't need to have this fear, but we just have this fear. It's just there.
So I needed to be seen and heard. Felt, and then she wanted me to listen to this and to hear this, because I obviously, any fears that I had as a child were just, well, if I even voiced them at all, they were just ignored. So I was doing the left hand writing on that as well, and she was like, I know, I get it, it doesn't make any sense, I don't know why we're afraid, but we just are. And then I did my Dear God writing, which is, dear God, what do I need to know, and then just start writing. And they were saying, well, you have this new belief, you've changed your old belief, and you've got this new, more fun belief. So obviously you're going to have changed your inner temperature with regards how much money you're comfortable with. It's I changed the one dial, therefore another dial automatically got changed, and now I had to just sit with the kind of thing.
So I was like, okay, we've just got to sit with this and be like, okay, well, we're just gonna have to be a bit nervous or a bit scared about this, and it's all going to be fine. And so just another thing to check. And it's funny, because I'd said before that in 2025, I knew it was the year of the snake. I also knew I was going to move before we came into 2025. I moved, I said goodbye, I changed things, and I chose to do it. So then the second half of the year, I was like, happy days, the year of the snake, but I've done all of that. But oh, good God, no. I had the relationship that I mentioned, and I had a housemate relationship end exponentially, absolutely horrendously. And then I've still got these other beliefs and things that are coming up that I need to change, including like the relationship with men thing and that like anxious attachment and stuff. But even the smaller beliefs of it was hard work to make money, but actually, or you have to work hard in order to make money, but actually we don't like that. So we're going to get rid of that.
Beliefs, to be fair.
Yeah, but like it's just a lot of, think it feels small because it was an internal thing. It was a thing that I was writing about and journaling about, whereas the ending of both relationships at the end of 2025, that was exponentially huge and affected my life in a way that I could externally see. Whereas the belief thing, it felt like, okay, in about 2-3 days, we'd sorted all of that out.
One.
And now we're back like doing normal things.
So I was just to pick up on your points there, because you mentioned a couple of things that are really useful for the audience as well, because writing or conscious thought. So you mentioned both your inner child writing, if you like, or your non-dominant hand, and also the Dear God writing, and both of those are a form of automatic writing, or you can call it consciously whole writing. So you're choosing to write with different aspects of yourself, and again to hear an answer back from those different aspects of yourself through your writing. Some people might want to do that through voice notes. It's not always about writing, but it is so powerful, and it's something that I teach and share. And I just want to again highlight that for what you've done there, because you do it naturally, innately. It's like, oh yeah, and I did this and I did that, and people might be going, what did she do there? So it's really helpful to.
Well, in all fairness, it was Sam Slater that reminded me of the inner child stuff. I did kind of forget.
Yeah, and it's stuff that we did in Chaos to Clarity, and we've done it previously in previous workshops and things like that as well. And as you say, you've done it before, writing yourself a letter from the past and things like that. So for anyone who hasn't done this, the non-dominant hand thing is that way of getting out of your brain as well. And it doesn't have to be to your inner child. You can, you can just, or it doesn't have to even be with your non-dominant hand. If you set an intention to connect with your higher self, for example, which again is another aspect of yourselves that you and I know this, but for the benefit of the audience, if you like, that our higher self, we all have one. It's an aspect of us. They're connected to our soul. Our soul is linked to theirs, and their soul is linked to ours. And they know our inner thoughts, and they, we can write them down. We don't have to express them out loud for them to hear them, feel them, etc., and to be able to respond to us. And it's a way of us getting out of our human minds and connecting with the divine. And then the other aspect of that, as you say, is like writing Dear God. And again, you can write Dear God, Dear Guides, Dear Archangels, Dear whoever it is.
Dear love, somebody said to me this morning, and I think I might actually, I don't do it all the time. I used to do it every day. I don't do it as much, and I don't do nearly as much writing as I did. I feel like in the past 2 months I've stopped writing, not altogether, but I've just stopped doing a lot of the writing I did. And I think I got all I needed from it, and now I'm very connected, so I don't need to do it. But one of the things that Jenny Granger mentioned to me this morning was Dear Love. And what do you
exactly? It's love in all its forms, exactly. Divine love.
Yeah, and I feel like I think I might switch to Dear Love, because we were talking then on the call with Jenny about the unconditional love, and because our society is, and like I've just decided I'm not dating anymore, even that, like the dating, the love in that is so conditional. And if you do this, I'll do that for you. And I feel like I need the unconditional, like to connect with the unconditional love, especially because it's not something that I was raised with at all. My family is full of conditions. But just have it, like experiencing that a little bit more, because I'm aware of relationships I have now where it is unconditional, but I need to feel into it more, I think. Because even when I said before about the meditation center and those two teachers, very unconditional there, and just like experiencing each other and me not needing to do anything or to be anything. And I think I need to lean more into feeling that and experiencing that, because it's not, we have not been here before. I do not know what that is enough.
Yeah, and I love that reframe, and that's what I spoke about this a little bit last night in the monthly reading for February, which is the month of love, of course, and that's where we're coming into the year of the fire horse as well. And it's that, and I experienced it. I did a a workshop with Kyle Gray, an online workshop, Angels Now, and it was talking about holy relationships. And I had that nudge of like, you need to do this, Gwen, because again, this time out in space for me has been about, I always talk about love for me first, and making those decisions from self-love. That's the theme that runs through my work. And I've still got that work to do myself as we do. That's why we do it. That's why we're passionate about it. And we have those levels of love that we've still got to achieve. And whilst I've had connections with God, with the divine, with Jesus, and these kind of beings of love, if you like, we've also got those, like you say, those intrinsic beliefs, or those the things that we've taken on not just conditionally, like what's the word? Collectively, if you like, about religion and those sort of things that you've mentioned, Catholicism a couple of times, but we've all got those kind of beliefs going on about that, and it is all love, because those things are man-made. Those they've been mistranslated or distorted, if you like, and when it comes down to it, it's all love. And so I love that you've said that you can do that, and I felt the love so powerfully and viscerally. I had to actually go and lie down. And like, I also felt as if I was going to be sick, and I was trying to explain it last night. I was like, I think I need to write it out for myself and actually, jump it in that way, really. And I've done a bit of that, but I think I need to really go there a bit more and probably experience it again on a different level, because again, it's like, it was so powerful and so potent and just so like overwhelming. And that's what often we find as well with grief and things like that as well, or with all these kind of emotions, when we are these highly sensitive beings, that we get overwhelmed by the tears and we forget that actually the tears are love. I know you having lost one of your best friends, and still, you connect with her again and your unseen team, and you have that support as well. And sometimes there'll be times when, like you say, when you're in floods of tears and you miss the person physically as well. And also, there's that kind of aspect of the human and the divine. Like the human us is like, oh, I really miss you. I wish I could talk to you. And we know that actually we can't talk to them and receive them and play with them and have fun and have holidays. And so it's those kind of connections that allow us to go, oh, actually, when I play more, when I relax, when I don't have to prove myself, when I don't have to earn or be productive or do these and be a perfectionist in some other way, that's love for me first. And that's what allows me to be able to make money whilst I'm doing these things, or to do that because I'm accessing that love and that unconditional acceptance for myself, that perpetual love. And yeah, one day you'll feel it and it'll be like, oh my God, this is so wonderful. And I'm one with the universe. And the next day you're back to being human again and being like, that was really bugging me. But that's just like,
I love that.
That balance of the human and the divine and the all-encompassing love and the
Just when you're talking, I'm thinking that maybe like a huge part, because I'm doing a course with Owen Scollard and Jenny Granger at the minute, and Owen was saying that our purpose is to evolve. When anybody asks him, that's what he says, instead of this, I have to like figure this out, and it's just to evolve. And it's exactly. I'm just thinking maybe the entire purpose of life is for us to learn how to just be, and can that be enough? Just me here. I don't need to give anything. I don't need to do anything, but can I just be here and let that be enough? And then also, while you were talking, I was thinking, I think I told you about this, but I can't remember. I had an experience. When I was 17, my grandaunt passed away. She was the first person I knew that died, and like it was I mean, it would have been sad anyway, but it was really sad for me. And I was told, of course, to not feel sad because she'd had a long life. I remember my dad said that. So I stopped crying, was not sad about it then. But recently she has come back. I have spoken to, like, I've done like lots of Who Is My Spirit team, or like who's there that I know about it, And I think a lot of that is because of the work that I did with you. But I realized I think it was just before Christmas, Spirit was like, oh, we need to tell you something. And I was like, what, like, what do you need to, what? Oh, Patsy's here. Okay. Why is she back? Like, because I knew one of the things I'd been told was that my grandmother was here, but my grandaunt wasn't. She had moved on and just wasn't she just wasn't part of the team because she had moved on. But she had come back, and she's not here all the time. But so that happened just before Christmas, and then I had a big realization through like a dream and waking up and been like, how the hell do I know these things? It was really weird. But then I just like a few days ago, I think I was suddenly thinking, oh, Patsy's here again. I don't know what she's here for, but she's just, and I think
there's obviously a certain aspect of what's going on just now that she's there to help with, that she's been through.
Yeah, she said
you were saying about your descendants.
Some of it is that they couldn't do, I think for both her and my grandmother, they both couldn't do what, like, I remember when I ended my relationship with my family around that time, I was thinking, I was so angry with my ancestors. And in Ireland, I did a women's circle in Ireland around Halloween. So we were talking about ancestors. And I remember thinking, well, they can fuck right off, because if they had done some of this work, then I wouldn't have to do it all. And in that meditation that we went into, I heard them apologizing and saying that they couldn't do it, which is why they needed me to do it. So when Patsy came back, and with both her and my grandmother, so my grandmother would have been here a lot more, but when Patsy came back, it was, we're here because we want to help now. We couldn't help when we were there before. And the knowings that I got when I first realized she was here were all around my family and things that they're doing at the minute. And they're just like, she just wants to protect me and wants to make sure that I get the help that she can give me now, but she couldn't give it to me when she was growing or when she was here. It wasn't something that she was capable of doing. And then my grandmother, so it was a bit of them both talking and been like, we couldn't do it, but we want to help you now. And then just recently when she did come back, I probably have it written down somewhere, but I don't actually remember if I was told why she was here, but that's going to be really interesting now. I'm going to try to figure out what aspect of this it is that they're here to help with, or what is some of the things that come up that I'm then like, oh, Patsy's here. I never thought about there was a theme.
Yeah. And what is good as well is, like, we don't need to figure it all out, because when it's right time, then she'll help you figure it out. So you don't need to know in advance, sort of thing. And
I know when I need to know, basically. A little bit like my toothache. They were saying, oh no, there's something we need to tell you. And they never actually told me. They let me figure it out myself.
Yeah, it'll come, and it'll be what it is, and it'll be like, it'll happen in perfect divine timing. So and I feel like there was something else that you said there that I wanted to come back to, but it's not coming to me at the minute, so obviously it's not true and important right now. But perhaps that's something for the audience to pick up on themselves as well. So but yeah, there's been a few themes there that we've spoken about, and through what we've spoken about the last time, and as you said as well, that expansion, that self-acceptance, the coming back to love, basically, and the liberation, the peace that you flowed to from that. And I know you before we started, you said that peace is your word of the year.
Yes. And last year I went and checked. Actually, last year it was faith. Which going into the year, I knew had a level of, like, I knew that I was going to be moving and that it was very much a faith move. So I did, but then even going through things like November and December, like I did with the housemate and that ex-friend, like I had to have faith that it was just what it was meant to be, and would come out stronger afterwards. Yeah.
And do you still get as much, talking about faith, it keeps bringing me back to, like, receiving through music and getting nudges through music? Do you get those kind of things?
Not necessarily music, but through a lot of numbers. I think for probably the past year and a half, I don't know, quite a while, I would see a lot of repeating numbers. So I would see a lot of numbers or things on social media, which I'm always like, yeah, but is that real? Because is that my algorithm? But spirit
mirrored back to you, though, because we're always broadcasting our frequency, and
Well, I've asked Spirit about it because I'm like, is this the meta algorithm or is it you? Like Spirit, but Spirit is like, no, when you've seen something, it is like it is if it resonates, then yes, it is for you. So yeah, a lot of numbers. Like last night, I didn't realize that it was the 2nd of February, so the second day of the second month. Yesterday until quite late in the day, I think. And I was reading and I read page 220 and then I saw the 3 2s and I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then this morning I saw something I think it was on Instagram, about the 2 portal, which obviously was put up yesterday, but I saw it today. And when I read it, it was saying that it was about relationships and romantic love. And I had seen some things about February being about romantic love and all of this. And I was reading it this morning thinking, how did you know? Because I've decided I'm not dating. So the shift that happened for me on the 2nd of the 2nd was that I'm not going to continue looking for romantic love. I'm going to continue loving life as it is. And exactly. If it finds me, great. But if I do not enjoy it, it can F right off again. But I'm not.
Our purpose is to love life, basically, and to uplift and to love ourselves. And then we'll also, like when we're fully believing in that and we're fully emitting that and transmitting that, then that's that's the frequency that's going to be reflected back to you in all ways. And so you're starting to feel it and see it and know it, and actually freeing yourself from the confines of, oh, well, it has to come this way, or I've got to do it through an app or whatever. You could meet somebody in the bakery or, whatever. But it's just because we tell ourselves that we can't, then that's, what we're seeing.
It shuts it off. Yeah,
exactly. Because we're trying to micromanage it and go, it has to happen this way. So therefore, we're like blinkers going, oh, I can't see it.
Yeah.
So I picked up my Angel Numbers book, which I was nudged to bring. It was somewhere else, and I was like, I think I'll need that during this chat, and we will be wrapping it up shortly. So, and I was doing that reading last night, the monthly reading for February, and it was fours coming up everywhere. So I'll check the four.
Fours have been big.
Yeah, so 22 says, you are at a crucial point on your journey, which will help you understand the relationships and spiritual assignments that will support your growth, which really sums up everything that we've spoken about, basically. And 4 says, let your truth be your teacher, trust in all that you feel, and let your joy lead.
Which is joy again. Yeah, joy and fun.
And joy is another name for God, is another name for love, like that divine love. And like you say, when you allow yourself to feel more joy and you play and you make that your purpose, then you can open up to everything else rather than us having to be conditioned and to be conditional about it. And the other thing about 22 as well, or asking me to say this as well, is that 22 is the number of the master builder, if you like. And again, that's what we're building in our life. So I'm just going to quickly get another definition from another little reference book that I like to use. And it's why I basically have to write a book and write all my things down in a book so that people can use it as reference the way I do. So that's my nudge from my team. You need to be doing this too, Gwen. And it says the number 22 is considered as one of the most powerful numbers, able to turn all dreams and desires into reality. The number 22 is a number of precision and balance. In its full capacity, this number is the master builder, which means that it provides the power to achieve almost impossible things. The number 22 is associated with universal love, well, there you go, and a message of peace and optimism. So that's brought it back full circle beautifully to your the year and to the message of this, the reason why we're both here, really. So yeah, and it says as well, and it's back to that the Merkaba, which is where we came in as well, which came via Archangel Michael, as I say, or I was reminded about it recently through a story about him, and that's that transcendence, ascendance, and ascension, and you are rising up. So that's how we get to rise up, is through feeling that universal love, through that peace, and through joy, through fun, through laughter, through love. It doesn't have to be hard; it gets to be easy.
Yeah, I had a client contact me after we had a session, or she messaged me over the weekend, and she said that she was feeling all these emotions, and I was like, well, you need to do what we do in our sessions, and you need to sit with it and cry and let yourself feel it. And then she texts me afterwards and goes, I did that. And then I filled in an application form for that new job I'd been thinking about going to, and I hadn't filled it in yet because it was hard. Whereas this time it just all came out and it was really easy. And I said, it gets to be easy. It doesn't have to be hard. And if it's hard, that's when you don't bother doing it. Because
exactly like what we said
if it's not easy, don't do it.
Yeah. If you're getting all the signs of like, oh, I've got to get this done, it's like, well, that's not the energy you want to put into a job application or a dating message
exactly.
or whatever it is. It's like, do you want that? Is that what you want to broadcast, to transmit? Is that the frequency you want to get back? No. So that's when you walk away or you do something else and you go, that's when we play.
It gets to be easy, and we've been conditioned so much to believe that it needs to be hard. Like I had that belief of it should be difficult to make money and you should be working really hard. But actually, that doesn't have to be true. Why would I want to believe that story? And it gets to be easy if we let it. But like I did, my mind was like, oh, but it's too easy. And like, you need to make it hard. And that's what so many of us do. We make it hard
all the time. But it's, the quicker we come to those realizations and get those inner nudges, like your podcast is called Inner Nudge, and get those inner dings of like, hello, just, stop. Like we say, the stop sign. It's not the time. And when it's right time, we'll come back to it. It will be easy. And then you can flow. And then, like we're saying there, the dreams can become reality. You can do almost impossible things. And then you go, oh, yeah, I did that because I followed the nudges and I didn't try to force it. And like,
we can also, we can also ask for what we want. Because I don't know if I've told you this, but I love badminton. I played it in Galway and I knew I wanted to play here.
That was one of the criteria for moving, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I knew I didn't pick a city I didn't pick the city picked me. And I knew there were not very many badminton clubs here, but I kind of resigned myself to, I won't be able to play very much or at all. But I did happen to find a badminton club that would let me go and play. And I was walking back. So I played for one night and then was told, okay, well, we have a waiting list basically, and we can put you on the waiting list. There's about 6 people ahead of you. It'll be a while. And I was given a lift back into town and I was walking down the road towards the flat. And I remember thinking, I want to play. So God, can you just sort that out? You've given me the bug now. I want to play, sort that out. 6 weeks later, I get a phone call saying, do you want to come play on Fridays? And when I got a lift out again and I got into the car and your man was like, God, you're really lucky. And I was like, yeah, I know. I asked for what I wanted. And I've done the same. I'm living in a 3-bed flat and the room I'm in is an internal room, which basically means the view out my window is into our kitchen. Yeah. And I want a room with daylight where I can see the weather basically outside. And I have said, God, can you have the housemate at the back of the flat move out, please, so that I can take her room? And I've said this to a few friends, but because it worked before, I'm like, I have no inhibitions believing that it will fully 100% work. Yeah. But I have my friend asked if I had heard from, and I said, no, but she's not moved. Like, I've not heard that she's moving out, but I have full faith. It took 6 weeks last time. Maybe it'll be shorter. Maybe it'll be longer. Either way, I am moving into a room with an external window in the same time.
Like you say, you broadcast that, you fully believe in it, you have full faith in it, and then you can let it go as well. It's like you submit, hand it over and you're like, right, do your stuff.
And a lot of it is knowing what you want. Because when I was moving in, I moved in at the end of last year and there was an awful lot of January 2026. What do you want in the new year? Did I have a clue? Absolutely not. No, I did not. I didn't know at all. And in all fairness, I'm like, well, it's January. It's the middle of winter. If I was a bear, I'd be hibernating. So who cares if I don't know what I want? But after I'd been here for about maybe 2 weeks, I was suddenly like crystal clear on, I do still want to live here. I love the area. I love the situation and the way the house is laid out and all of that. So I do want to stay, which I didn't know when I first moved in. I never do this, but when I first moved in here, I immediately was thinking about wanting to move out and wanting to like live somewhere else. But I then realized that actually I want to stay here, but I want an external room. So I've asked God. So a lot of it is also knowing what we want, and a lot of people do not know what they want.
Clear on it. Yeah. And being decisive, and even if you think, oh well, it might change, well, but it's like what you want now, and like say you can evolve and it can change and shift, energy changes. However, it's like getting that knowing, getting that clarity, taking the action, even if it's just like a little dot of intention, doing something that sort of tells the universe, right, this is what I want. And then, you keep taking those steps, you keep following those nudges, and you keep doing those things. And and if it comes and you think, well, that's actually not what I really want, because it's the feeling that we want as well. And that's why you'd have moved to Spain. It's like, being in Spain's a lot about it, but a lot of it is about the feelings that we want when we get there, or the life that we imagine. And it's like the more energy and the more, it's like expectation, but expectation without attachment, because we have too much expectations on it. That's again us trying to control the situation. But when we can have expectations and, like you say, just go, well, I know I can do this because I've done it before, and I'm magical, and I can, magically manifest what I want. And you might not get it in the form that you want. So it's like that, releasing the form and keeping the feeling. That's the real playfulness to it, of going.
Yeah, because if it's not what if I don't get that. If I don't get that, it's going to be something even better. And who knows what that'll be. Yeah. And what you want will change. I was saying before the call that I found a letter that I wrote to myself 2 years ago to open a year ago, and I completely forgot about it. So I opened it today, or like a week ago or something. And in the letter, I was living in Galway, and I had no idea that I wanted to move to Spain. And I was reading it, and the version of me that wrote it really wanted a partner. And the version of me right now does not. Well, if I was to find a partner that was great and added to my life, great, we'll go with that. But unless they're 100%,
you've got more clarity on it, exactly. And it's not like it has to be like X, Y, and Z, but it's like, well, they have to be respectful. They have to be,
Yeah, we're not like it has to be 100% adding to my life. Otherwise, we're
win-win.
The version of me that lived in Galway, that was all I saw. I lived in a small town in rural Ireland, and all I saw were people that were like, if people were not married with children with a permanent job, that was what they wanted. And there are loads of different ways to do life. And if you are surrounding yourself with a certain type of person, that's the only way you can see. And that was the only thing that I could see at that time. I was surrounded by people that was what they wanted, and they had, or they were aiming towards that. Whereas I don't know. I was saying to someone this morning that if I had gotten all of that, I don't know if I would have wanted it, or if I would have been able to stay. Would I have, because I actually think that I probably would have ended up moving anyway, whether I had a partner and a house there or not, because I don't know, I just needed to see something different. But now I have so many variations of different people around me. Like I have single people around my age that have no kids. I have people that are still living with their parents that are my age. Or I've got like friends who are married, but they don't have children, but they still, and then I've got loads of friends that do have kids. And it's just expanded my world view. So I don't need the version, I actually felt really sad for the version of me that wrote that, because all she could see was this one path. And now I'm there is so many paths, and there's so many different ways that I could live life, but it wasn't something I could see from that perspective, because that was all that was surrounding me, really.
Yeah, and I love that's what we need sometimes, is a perspective shift, because sometimes we think it has to be a huge, awakening or that kind of thing. Sometimes it's just that perspective shift of like, I get to live my life how I want it. And that's why my business is called Living Your Best Life Coaching, because it's like, it's not to be twee, but it's like living your best life, success on your terms is the ultimate goal, really. And when you can see that, and when you can be part of that and be part of that collective consciousness, that's again what you magnetize around you, what you see reflected around you, what you attract to you, and what you create. And that's how you manifest a life that you want as well, because you be that, you see that, you feel that, you emit that, and that's what life goes back to. It's like, all right, that's the frequency we're on now, so that's what we get to do. So that's a brilliant place to wrap it up, I think, to leave it there, and it's been a great conversation. So thank you very much for doing that. And my job now is to go and put out both of these into the world and let people hear that and see the transformation that's happened within that time as well, and know
Yeah,
that it's
I
possible.
almost feel like it'll be interesting for me to watch as well, because no more than the letter that I wrote 2 years ago.
It's a similar thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Just a shorter time frame, but I do think an awful lot has changed, not just physically.
You have reminded me, thank you. I knew that my brain would remind me, my team would remind me of the like, was there something I wanted to say earlier on, and it's like we brought it back full circle. So thanks, team, thanks, guys. Really, what we're essentially saying is that we all have two missions in life, really. So we have our mission to be in service to the divine, to that all-encompassing love that we've spoken about. And then we have our secondary mission. So that's our primary mission, and our secondary mission is just to live our life and to be, and how we achieve that bigger mission. That changes, and that's the, so we're multi-passionate, or we're, we want to share who we are in different ways, and to love life in different ways and let it love us back. And so that's our sort of two missions. So it's like we've got our bigger mission is just to, like, to be in love with ourselves, to be in love with life, and then how we do that. And it's like when you do that secondary one, and again, ways that feel good to you, that's how you manifest all those things, and that's how you're like, oh, I can do this. This is like easy peasy lemon squeezy. And it's by being in service to us and something bigger than ourselves, but ultimately love for us first, and feeling that love, and extending out, and that positive uplift, and that's what changes past, present, future, and changing your present around you. And it's that, but it's being receptive to that and knowing that we're worthy of having that. That's the ultimate lesson, I want to say. So thank you for that. I feel like that's, I kind of like felt like I've ended on a bit of a sermon almost, but not in a good way, in a beautiful way. And I'm sure that's how it will be received and understood by the people who it's meant for. And hopefully they share a bit of that, and when they've listened to this, they can feel that and share that around them as well, because that's really what we want, is that beautiful ripple effect. So thank you for giving us that opportunity, and giving the audience that opportunity today as well. So
you're very welcome. And now I'm going to have to go because I have an Irish class.
Right. And it's 1:11.
I know, I saw that.
Right.